New South Wales just get State of Origin Rugby League. Yous are so lucky that Suoliti got sent off because otherwise you'd be going to Suncorp trying to avoid a clean sweep. But the most dominant first half in State of Origin history set up a dominant display for the New South Wales Blues. Michael Maguire gets his first win as the head coach of the Blues. Jakey gets his first win as captain, and they did it in flying style. One of the great rugby league games to watch as a New South Welshman. Well, it's no surprise that we haven't had many over the years, but how good was that? The Blues have locked it up. We get to see a State of Origin decider. To go 2 years without one would be quite disappointing for everyone, so it's good that we got a decider. And for all the talk about how much guts New South Wales showed in Game 1 and how Queensland were pretty disappointing until the end of that game, boy, did we see evidence of when it was 13-on-13, how dominant New South Wales were. And Michael Maguire's game plan that was evident in Game 1 and that what it seemed to keep in Game 2 was to go right through the middle, and they did that. Early in the game, it was the line speed, Jakey Javoy, which was absolutely snapping blokes left, right, and centre, leading from the front. Queensland were great defensively as well, but they broke first. They were ill-disciplined. They gave away that first penalty, and then there was that roll-on effect, and New South Wales grabbed momentum, scored that very first try. From then on, Queensland managed to wrestle momentum back for quite a little bit, and then Reece Walsh decided to go down the blind side, kicked it dead, and from that point on, Queensland never even looked close to entering New South Wales half, let alone even getting some rugby league steam, because that was one of the most dominant first half displays we have seen in the State of Origin arena. And the biggest criticism was New South Wales couldn't find points, and well, we may have just found a solution, because I don't know what the heck got into Mitchell Moses' breakfast this morning, but the second coming of Joey Johns 2005 is finally upon us. There were so many questions, including from myself. Mitchell Moses had played well in Game 3 last year, but it was a dead rubber, and he was 0-2 in live Origin games going into tonight. But holy hell, that was the best performance from a New South Wales halfback that I have probably ever seen. I think it's probably better than Cleary's was in this Game 2 fixture 2 years ago, but from the opening set, Mitchell Moses was able to go kick for kick with DCE, and DCE surprisingly never managed to get momentum back because Mitchell Moses' kicking game was on another level. So too was Jerome Luai. Considering how they played together in Game 2 just 12 months ago, which was honestly probably putrid and one of the worst halves combinations I can remember for New South Wales. But this game, they looked so on song, and I think what really helped them was the inclusion of Dylan Edwards and Cameron Murray as that lock. Not a traditional ball-playing lock like Isaiah Yeo has played for the Blues in previous years. He knew when to get out of the way. He had terrific leg speed, and he basically played more as another middle forward that was quicker than he did as a ball-playing lock, which proved dividends. Mitchell Moses controlled the middle of the field, swung it to Luai on the left, swung it to Edwards on the right, and they created absolute havoc. It was great to see New South Wales capitalise on all that field position, because that was the one large criticism, is that we've had good field position in most of the Origin games. Our forward pack has done an amazing job. We just couldn't capitalise. But Luai was perfect in setting up Angus Crichton, Latrell Mitchell, and Brian To'o. That's probably Luai's best Origin game since 2021. Angus Crichton was amazing. Latrell Mitchell brought that presence, which just created opportunities for not only him, but also for Brian To'o. And by the end of the game, you're looking at where is Latrell Mitchell, because Queensland was so focused on trying to contain Angus Crichton. Angus Crichton's best game in a New South Wales Blues jersey, and you could honestly say that for a lot of these guys, and it was great to finally see that Dylan Edwards stood up. Dak Lomax was just as good as he was in Game 1. Nearly every single player in that first half did their job, and they did it perfectly. 34-0, like I said, the most dominant half in State of Origin history, and it was this team. Post-Origin 1, they were paying $5.20 to win the series, and knowing how this works, they're going to be going to Suncorp for a decider. The hardest task for a New South Welshman, probably the most legacy-defining game that a lot of these guys will ever have in their careers, and they're more than likely going to be favourites, and Queensland are going to act shocked if they somehow win that game. Obviously, we're going to talk about that closer to it. I'm so happy that it's a decider. I don't mind a team trying to avoid a sweep. That is just as good a drama, but there is nothing better. Give me a grand final any day of the week. but I love nothing more than an Origin decider. The best versus the best, and we've seen the best of nearly every single one of the players on the field tonight, from Queensland in previous seasons and obviously New South Wales tonight. And while we can glaze all the outside backs, Dylan Edwards, the spine, the forward pack of New South Wales did a terrific job. Jake Trbojevic leading from the front, made more tackles than there were seconds, and they were all brutal, and he broke so many ribs. And honestly, that is probably the quietest I've ever seen those Queensland forwards play. Paddy Carrigan, bro, I didn't even see him outside of him getting sin bin. Lindsay Collins, that was the quietest game I've ever seen from him, period. And Ruben Cotter, I think he spent most of the night hanging off of Angus Crichton. Billy Slater ain't perfect. The hammer went down, and credit to him, the hammer was still bloody good. And surprisingly, early on in the game, like I said, when Queensland were able to wrestle back momentum, it was down their left-hand side, which is where Stephen Crichton was. We all talked about how they were going to attack Latrell Mitchell and Brian To'o because Stephen Crichton was the best defensive centre, and they were definitely going to shore up that edge. That didn't prove to be the case at all, especially early. But then hammer went down, and credit to him for coming back and playing through with that busted shoulder because he was still great. Another try for the hammer despite them getting flogged. But it technically was only a first half flogging because credit to Queensland, they did come out, they did win the second half 18-4. Now that is because once New South Wales were leading 4-0 in the penalty count, Ashley Klein decided to swap the colour of his whistle and New South Wales couldn't buy a call. Shout out to the people who bought their tickets at the end that saw one try because they were the real heroes for not leaving because Ashley Klein had a permanent vendetta against anyone who wanted to see a try in front of that section of the field. There is still a lot to go from Queensland. You can give DCE a bit of criticism because he failed to get momentum back in that first half, but they never had a chance to, and that's because of how good the kicking game of Mitchell Moses and Jerome Luai was. Mitchell Moses did majority of the kicking, and that is one of the best kicking performances I have seen for a while. Like I said in the preview, that was the main reason why Moses had to come in for Nico Hines, because he might be able to go kick for kick with DCE, and especially in that first half, he kicked him off the park. DCE probably didn't even get a kick away, and he's probably been the best kicker we've seen in Origin since Cooper Cronk. And it was obvious New South Wales wanted to go down that edge. Obviously, they had plenty of success, and I mentioned how Luai just unlocked Crichton, To'o, and Latrell Mitchell, and they didn't just run down that channel. For all the talk about Valentine Holmes was an afterthought because they were bashing the hell out of DCE. And credit to Cherry Evans, I didn't think he was awful. He wasn't good either. Madge made it clear they were going to go after him, and fair enough, because why wouldn't you go after probably the most important player for Queensland? And that was evident because they shut him down defensively, and it just gave no one else on Queensland confidence. Even Reece Walsh, the great Reece Walsh, I get it. I'd be rattled completely after suffering that sort of concussion in Origin 1, knowing that a coach like Madge Maguire probably isn't going to let up. But outside of what is a very small sample size, definitely the quietest Reece Walsh has been. Tommy Dearden, I thought, definitely struggled as well. They just made such an emphasis. It sort of went away from the game plan, which was to jam in on Walsh. New South Wales just got confident and knew to take out Dearden and DCE, and they could find no way to get the ball to Walsh. And it wasn't until Queensland started to just go Cherry and Dearden to go themselves. Cherry set up that try for Nanai. Dearden set up that try down the left-hand side, which was obviously the hammer kick, because hammer doesn't go Origin games without scoring tries. And then Cherry had the Harbour Bridge pass double pump, which was a pretty good try. So it's hard to blame the halves in this situation because, like I said, the Queensland Mills just got absolutely bullied off the field. New South Wales absolutely bullied Queensland. That's the only way to put it. When you look at the individual matchups, there was no one from Queensland who came close. Payne Haas had his best Origin game. That makes obvious sense considering how dominant the New South Wales pack were. He nearly ran for 200 running meters. Angus Crichton, 170. Cameron Murray, 120. Isaiah over 100 as well. Spencer Leniu ran 83 minutes in the short amount of game time he had, but most of that time was down a sin bin, which I do, if I am critical of New South Wales, I thought Madge got his rotation wrong, which is quite alarming. We had a real chance to go on with it. I have some huge questions over some of the decisions. Not only did Jake play limited minutes again, but they had a chance to put Connor Watson on when they had all the momentum through the middle of the field. Queensland brought on some tired forwards that already got through a mountain work in a small amount of time. Why not put Connor Watson on? Why not bring Hamole on? Poor Hamole, man. Can this man play Origin football with 13 on 13? He comes on as soon as there's a sin bin, for Christ's sake. But that's the one thing I am critical of, and that's a Madge issue. That's not a player issue. I can't think of one New South Wales player who didn't not do their job. Mitchell Moses was absolutely outstanding. Him and Luai looked like they've been playing together for years, and like I said, I think Dylan Edwards was a huge part of that. I still think Queensland are going to be reasonably confident. I get game one now looks a hell of a lot worse considering how much they did struggle looking back. It really is such a shame from a New South Wales perspective that game one was in Sydney, because holy heck, man, I just wanted to see 13 on 13. And who knows, maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself, but it's hard to think that we're not, considering how much we dominated the middle tonight with the team we had 3 weeks ago, as if we didn't dominate the middle again. So I think that'll be Billy's biggest concern, is the middle of the field and also limiting their errors. I know they ended up with an 80% completion rate, but in the first half, they were absolutely putrid. There are no changes I would make to this New South Wales team. There are some questions around rotations I would have, but you can't blow up a team that just produced that sort of game. But there is concerns. The 18-4 loss in the second half. Hopefully they don't go into game 3 with a complacent mindset, but hey, I guess we will just wait and see. Mitchell Moses was the man of the match, and rightfully so. I think we're all going to be glazing Mitchell Moses for the next week or so. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on State of Origin Game 2. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. And how good is it to know that we have a State of Origin decider?